Let me tell you about the most expensive mistake I almost made. I was standing in an auto parts store, holding a $180 brake pad set in one hand and a $45 discount set in the other. My bank account had $67 until payday. Logic said, buy the cheap one now, deal with the consequences later. But here's what nobody tells you about that choice. Those cheap brake pads would last maybe 8 months. The expensive ones? 3 years. By choosing what I could afford, I would spend $270 over 3 years instead of $180. I would literally pay 50% more for being broke. And that's when it hit me. The entire economy is designed to charge you extra for not having money. I'm obsessed with financial traps that nobody talks about. Not the skip your morning coffee advice you hear everywhere, but the real structural reasons why climbing out of poverty feels like running on a treadmill that keeps speeding up. If you've ever felt like you're doing everything right but still drowning, this video is going to make you angry. Good, you should be. Today, we're exposing the invisible tax that hits you hardest when you have the least. It's not on your W-2, the government doesn't collect it, but you're paying it every single day, and it's keeping you exactly where you are. There's an old economic principle that most people have never heard of, but it controls their entire financial life. Author Terry Pratchett buried it in a fantasy novel, but it's more real than anything taught in business school. Here's the concept. Imagine 2 people need winter coats. Person A has money in the bank. They spend $200 on a quality coat with a lifetime warranty. It keeps them warm for 20 years. Person B is living paycheck to paycheck. They can only spare $40. That coat lasts 2 winters before the zipper breaks and the lining tears. Over 20 years, Person B will buy 10 coats at $40 each. That's $400, spent double what the wealthy person paid. And they're still wearing an inferior coat in year 21. This is called the wealth penalty, and it's everywhere once you see it. Walk into any Walmart and you'll see this playing out in real time. Let's talk about something as mundane as cereal. The family-size box of cereal, $6.99 for 24 ounces. That breaks down to about 29 cents per ounce. But if you only have $3 in your grocery budget, you're buying the small box, $3.49 for 10 ounces. That's 35 cents per ounce. You're paying 20% more for the exact same Frosted Flakes because you couldn't come up with an extra $3.50 up front. Now multiply that across every item in your cart. Ketchup, trash bags, shampoo, batteries, rice. The person shopping with a full bank account is getting a 15 to 25% discount on life simply because they can buy 3 months of supplies at once. And here's the cruel irony. If you're poor, your personal inflation rate is actually higher than someone who's wealthy. While economists measure inflation at 3%, your inflation might be 5 or 6% because you're locked out of the bulk discount economy. Let's talk about the most predatory industry that nobody calls predatory, retail banking. If you keep $5,000 in your checking account, banks treat you like a VIP. No monthly maintenance fees, free ATM withdrawals, maybe even cashback rewards. You're making money just by having money. But let's say you're living close to the edge. You've got $18 in your account. A subscription you forgot to cancel tries to charge $9.99. Suddenly, you're at $8.01. Then your phone bill auto-pays the $50. You're now negative $41.99. The bank doesn't call you, they don't send a concerned email, they slap you with a $35 insufficient funds fee. And if that phone bill tries to process again the next day, another $35 fee. You just paid $70 in penalties because you were $42 short. If we calculate that as an interest rate, borrowing $42 for 2 days at a cost of $70, you're looking at a 30,000% annual percentage rate. No loan shark in history has ever charged rates that aggressive, but your bank does it legally, and they made $12.4 billion doing it last year, almost entirely from accounts with balances under $1,000. The wealthy earn interest, the poor pay interest.
It's a wealth transfer mechanism disguised as a service fee.
Here's where it gets even darker. Researchers at Princeton ran a series of studies and discovered something terrifying. When people are stressed about money, their cognitive function drops by the equivalent of 13 IQ points. Read that again. Just worrying about how you're going to make rent next week makes you measurably less intelligent. It's like being drunk, except you're sober and trying to make major life decisions. This is called scarcity mindset, and it explains why people in financial crisis often make choices that look irrational to outsiders. Taking the payday loan at 400% interest, buying fast food instead of cooking, staying in the toxic job because the fear of unemployment is paralyzing. It's not stupidity, it's bandwidth. When your brain is running a constant background program called survival mode, you don't have the mental RAM left to optimize for the future. You're just trying to get through Tuesday. So the wealthy person doesn't just have more money, they have more mental clarity, more ability to plan, more capacity to spot opportunities. The penalty for being poor isn't just financial, it's cognitive. Let's talk about cars, because this is where the penalty compounds into a death spiral. A middle-class person buys a certified pre-owned Honda with 40,000 miles for $18,000. They get a loan at 6% interest. That car will run for 150,000 miles with basic maintenance, oil changes, tires, brakes. Total cost of ownership over 10 years may be $30,000, including the loan interest. Now watch what happens when you don't have $18,000 or decent credit. You need a car to get to work. The only option is a sketchy used car lot that specializes in no credit, no problem deals. They sell you a 12-year-old sedan with 130,000 miles. The car is worth $3,500, but they're financing it for $7,000 at 22% interest because you're high risk. Your monthly payment is $220. Over 4 years, you'll pay $10,560 for that $3,500 car. And here's the kicker. It won't last 4 years. The transmission will die in year 2. You'll still be making payments on a dead car while desperately trying to scrape together money for another one. This is the trap. You're not paying for transportation, you're paying a poverty tax for the crime of not having capital up front. Housing might be the most brutal example of all. When you rent an apartment for $1,500 a month, 100% of that money evaporates. You're paying someone else's mortgage, their property taxes, their maintenance costs, plus their profit margin. After 10 years of paying $1,500 a month, you've spent $180,000 and own absolutely nothing. Meanwhile, that same property might have a mortgage payment of $1,100. If you could buy it, you'd pay less per month and actually build equity. Over 30 years, you'd own an asset worth potentially $400,000 or more. But to buy, you need a down payment, let's say $30,000. When you're spending 40 to 50% of your income on rent, saving $30,000 is nearly impossible. You're trapped paying more for less because you can't afford the upfront cost to pay less. It's a moat designed to keep you on the renter side forever. Money isn't the only thing poverty steals. It steals your time, and time is the one resource you can never get back. If you own a washer and dryer, laundry takes 10 minutes of active effort. Throw it in, walk away, transfer it, fold it when you're ready. If you have to use a laundromat, you're looking at 2 to 3 hours minimum. Travel time, waiting for machines, sitting there because you can't leave your clothes unattended. That's 3 hours you could have spent working a side gig, learning a skill, or just resting so you're not completely burned out. If your time is even $15 an hour, you just lost $45 of opportunity cost, plus the $8 you spent on quarters. Or think about food access. If you live in a neighborhood without a real grocery store, what's called a food desert, your options are corner stores with inflated prices or taking 2 buses to reach an affordable supermarket. That's an hour-and-a-half round trip just to buy milk. The friction of survival is exhausting when you're poor, Every simple task becomes an obstacle course. That exhaustion ensures you never have the energy to escape. Okay, I know what you're thinking. This is depressing as hell. The system is rigged and I'm screwed. But here's the thing. Understanding the trap is the first step to escaping it. Most financial advice tells you to invest in index funds and get 8% return. But if you're poor, that's not your best investment. Your best investment is stopping the bleeding.
If you have credit card debt at 19% interest, paying that off is a guaranteed 19% return. No stock in the world can promise that. If you spend $300 fixing your car now instead of $2,000 later, that's a 566% return on investment. The first goal isn't to get rich, it's to stop paying the poverty tax. There's one number that changes everything: $1,000. That first $1,000 in savings is not just money, it's a shield. It's the difference between a flat tire being an annoyance versus a catastrophe that destroys your month. With $1,000 saved, you can increase your insurance deductible from $250 to $1,000, which drops your monthly premium by $40. You just turned savings into monthly cash flow. You can fix small problems before they become massive ones, the $120 dental filling instead of the $3,000 root canal. You can buy bulk groceries and start paying 20% less for food. You stop paying overdraft fees because you have cushion. That $1,000 is the most powerful money you'll ever save because it breaks the cycle. It switches you from playing defense to playing offense. Here's the mindset shift. Stop thinking about what you can afford monthly. Start thinking about total cost of ownership. The furniture store wants you focused on $49 a month when that hides the fact you're paying $1,800 for a $600 couch when you factor in their 29% financing. You need to ask, what is this going to cost me over its entire life, and how does that compare to the better version? The $15 kitchen knife from Target needs sharpening every month and breaks in a year. The $60 chef's knife from a restaurant supply store lasts 20 years. Over that time, you'd have bought 20 cheap knives for $300. The expensive knife saved you $240. This applies to shoes, tools, appliances, cookware, even socks. Every time you buy cheap, you're setting a timer for when you'll have to buy again. Every time you buy quality, you're buying your future freedom. You can't fix everything at once. You need to do a financial audit and find the single biggest leak in your boat. Are you paying $80 a month in overdraft fees? That's $960 a year. Your first goal is saving enough buffer to never pay that again. Are you paying 23% interest on a $3,000 credit card? That's costing you $690 a year in interest alone. Killing that debt is priority one. Are you spending $200 a month on Uber because your car is unreliable? That's $2,400 a year. Fixing the car or buying a reliable one pays for itself in 10 months. Find the one expense that's bleeding you the most because you don't have capital, and then do whatever it takes to plug it. Sell stuff, work overtime, cut every luxury until that leak is sealed. It's not fun, it's not sexy, but it's warfare. You're fighting for your financial life. Here's what I want you to understand. This system profits from your struggle. Every overdraft fee, every payday loan, every rent payment that builds someone else's wealth, that's by design. Companies budget for your late fees. Banks depend on your insufficient funds charges. Landlords rely on you never escaping to home ownership. When you start making different choices, you become a bad customer for them and a good CEO for your own life. Every time you see a fee, let it make you angry. Use that anger as fuel. You're not bad with money. You're being charged extra for not having money. Those are two completely different things. The journey from broke to stable is the hardest financial journey you'll ever make. It takes 10 times more effort to go from $0 to $10,000 than it does from $10,000 to $100,000. The wind is in your face at the start. But once you build that buffer, once you buy the quality boots, once you stop paying the penalty fees, the game changes. You start playing a different game entirely, one where money works for you instead of against you. If this video made you see the invisible taxes you've been paying, share it with someone who needs to hear it. We don't talk about this enough. We celebrate the wins, but ignore the traps. And hit subscribe because we're going to keep breaking down the financial truths that nobody wants you to understand. Thanks for watching. Now go plug your biggest leak.